Hey, my name's Paul Higgins, and I am the Irish Connection. This podcast is about connecting with people from all walks of life and finding out their stories, so that they can connect with you all. Positive connections are contagious. Why don't you find out for yourself by listening along weekly? And you can also make more connections through the stories on our blog. Enjoy. Thousand welcomes to another edition of the Irish Connection. We are joined today by travel blogger. Johnny is the only person in Ireland to have ever visited every country in the world. And he is now on the path to becoming the first person in history to have visited every country in the world, to have climbed the 7 summits, and to have also visited the North Pole and the South Pole. And he is the founder of the travel blog One Step Forward. And we're pretty proud to have him on the show today. Johnny, welcome.
Thank you, mate. How you doing?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Thanks a million for coming on and joining us. So where are you at the moment? Where in the world are you, should they say?
I'm actually normally I'm based in Thailand. Obviously, originally I'm from Ireland, but I'm currently in Lanzarote in the Canary Islands, which are a set of Spanish islands just off the coast of Morocco.
Awesome. And what are you down there for at the moment?
I was actually in the UK just a week ago, but it's kind of a long story, but in 9 days' time, I'm going to be rowing across the Atlantic Ocean. So leaving here on a rowboat and arriving in Antigua in the Caribbean in a couple of months' time. So that's Monday, the 22nd of February today, for anyone listening late. And we're leaving roughly March 3rd. So if we're dead, this will probably do a lot better. If we're alive, hopefully we've made it by the time you listen.
Come on, don't be saying stuff like that, you know what I mean? It's going to fly then if anything happens to you guys. You starting to get a little bit stressed about it then, or not? Or is it just not phasing you at all?
No, I'm terrified. But it's a bit of a weird one because, like I say, I was living in Thailand. My mum and my sister are obviously both Irish as well, but they live in England now. So when this all began, we were supposed to be on the ocean already, but because of COVID and that new UK strain and everything, it meant that we were actually, when I went back to visit them in England, I was supposed to come to Canary Islands, which is part of Spain, a week after arriving in the UK. So I was just going to go to the UK, see my mum, see my sister, and then nip off to Spain. But I couldn't get to Spain because all the flights were cancelled. So I was stuck there for a couple of months and the whole project was delayed and looked like it was going to be cancelled. So I didn't actually have time, or I didn't really have the emotional drive to feel scared or apprehensive or anything, because those whole 2 months or whatever the delay was, we were just focusing on getting paperwork together and trying to have the Spanish authorities let us enter the country so we could start the row. So actually, I was just constantly stressing about, can we get to the Canary Islands to start? How do we get to the Canary Islands? Blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't actually thinking about rowing. I was just thinking about like immigration and paperwork and all that, you know what I mean? So we just arrived here now. We're going to be here about a week or less actually. And now we made it here. Now I can start to have time to get
now the boat's on the way. Yeah, it's starting to kick in a little bit. I mean, was it all just because of COVID, all that kind of problems? Was it because of everything that's going on? Should it have been straightforward, or would it be?
The guy who's our skipper has rowed he's actually rowed nearly every major ocean. He's rowed across the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and whatever other major ocean there is. He's done 3. And year, but because of COVID, Australia in Africa, which is something hopefully I might do in a year or 2. Anyway, that was so because that leaves from Oz is completely closed. They just had to write that off, that project.
Yeah.
And because they've in the ocean's a very small world, only 300 people have ever done it. So it's in terms of like fundraising and sponsors and boats and tech and satellite companies and all that, it's a really small world. So he could put it together really quickly. So he's like, oh, listen, if the Indian one's cancelled, why don't we just bash out across the Pacific? Atlantic. Atlantic.
You're rowing the wrong way.
And they had some. They wanted to try to help raise money for men's mental health, and obviously they want to increase the scope of their own business. It's called Monkey Fist is the company that we're doing it with.
Right.
And
Cool.
they've got a BBC guy who used to be in Dirty Sanchez doing it. So they had an opportunity to raise the profile of the brand. They're like, listen, let's just do it last minute. So then they just put it together really last minute.
Awesome.
So even without COVID, it still probably would have been delayed because the boat literally only got finished getting built like 10 days ago.
Wow. So these boats aren't like reused. It's like purpose built for one crossing.
Normally they're reused, but like I say, the ocean rowing industry or society is quite small. So, you know, they're only like 50 grand, maybe $50,000 maybe per boat. And you know, people normally buy them 2 or 4, whatever fundraise, and then they'll sell them back within the industry on like Facebook pages with a handful of people. And then they try to resell them. Yeah. But because ours is a charity fundraiser, we're getting the boat for free, but we don't own it. We're giving it back to the company that made it. So they made a new one for us, and we'll give it back to them at the end.
So hopefully it's not been tried and tested yet, but hopefully it's all good. Like, oh, this podcast will be golden, as you said. Like, so you've got a full crew of guys, the skipper. I mean, this is something I remember ages ago reading and speaking to you about. This is something that you've tried to do or kind of gravitated before. You know, you're a big believer in The Secret and stuff like that, and you've kind of had this focus about you really wanted to row the Atlantic or row a major ocean. So all of a sudden, people started coming into your life who had done it. Is that correct? Or I remember you saying something about that.
Yeah, I did say something about that on my personal Facebook there. But also, you know, since COVID happened, like I'm a travel blogger by trade, so there hasn't been much traveling going on. So I've been rewriting lots of my old content with modern SEO techniques so it ranks better to increase my traffic, right? Yeah. I stumbled across a blog post I wrote in 2011 or 2012 that talked about I want to climb Everest, I want to row across the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm like, I don't even remember writing that, and here I am now, like about to do it. It's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's something I met a few guys. I knew that it was possible for the last few years. For about 5 years, or actually turns out it was 8 or 9 years that I first heard about it after reading that blog post. But the last kind of 3 or 4 years, my social media and stuff that I had done in life and media connections and making money online and all this stuff, I was kind of mixing in circles that are quite close to like quite hardcore adventurer people who like previously I might have just followed from a distance and looked up to. Now I'm almost in their circle because I've been gravitating toward kind of like hardcore life. And then once that happened, those people are just buzzing you and get opportunity. And I ended up in the right kind of groups and eventually got the opportunity to do it. And now let's see how this goes. We'll try to finish this one and survive, and then we'll think about other stuff in the future.
And then we'll see where the rest of the stuff goes. From that blog in 2011. Yeah, we can tick it off. Yeah, but it's a good thing that, like, you know, you should always read. You should always review, isn't it? Really, like, and go back, and you know, people don't do that a lot, don't they? Know, you know, kind of take a step back, as you say, and review and look back and remember, and you know, review what you did say in the past, and hopefully, like, you know, you create them goals, you set them goals, and you know, you want to fulfill them. So it's a good thing to be able to, you know, at least.
It's scary because you have to be confronted with your own failures. Also, me, like. So easy in the modern world of social media to say I want to do this, or you know that quote, a wish without a plan is a dream, and it's true. You know, like you can say I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, but what are you doing to make it happen? Nothing, right? And then if you write that stuff down, and then you know deep down in the back of your head you've forgotten about it, but you kind of know something's there that you're not fulfilling what you said you were going to do, and then to actually tangibly reflect on what you wrote or what you committed to or what you dreamed of years ago, it's a very fearful process because for many of us, me included, there'll be things that you said, that you planned, that you just haven't even come close to. And that's a scary thing. It's a lot easier to stick your head in the sand and not face that you have done what you wanted to do 5 or 10 years ago. It takes a lot of courage to do that, even to find out that you're not doing what you want to do so you can redirect your path back on track. That's scary. It's
funny, isn't it? Because people talk about courage and that nowadays, and you think about courage like being the opposite of, like, you know, so bravery and courage and things like that. I always think about like the Roman times and gladiators and that kind of courage and that, you know, battle courage and whatever, you know, that's medals of bravery or whatever. Like, but nowadays I think it's more like it can be courage about not not sinking. It's more courage can't be, it's not really measured like that anymore. I think, you know what I mean? I see it more as courage not to shy away from the things that you could do and live a fulfilled life, you know what I mean? And say things and put them out there and mean them and go after them, you know, and chase dreams, you know, put absurd things out there. But like you say, you've got to have a plan. You've got to detail things down and go, right, I'm going to do it. And once you write it down, and we have boards all over our house with stuff written on them and notes and whiteboards and things, and even trying to get the kids to do stuff like that. I think it's really important for them to write goals and write, you know, it just sets a good mindset, you know, I think for right or wrong, you know, I think it's really important.
Yeah,
but
we're blessed with an opportunity like in the modern world. Like you say, yeah, courage is to be raised by taking a pop at a big shot, and people are trying to look for the good fight to fight, but actually we're very privileged in the situation. Strong passports, strong currencies, healthcare, education is all free already, so we don't need that kind of courage. So courage becomes from being emotionally vulnerable, being aware of your failures, owning your goals, and risking falling short of those goals. So yeah, that's a different type of courage, but it's equally as difficult.
Yeah, definitely. And overcoming adversity, you know, isn't it? You know, the world's full of, all you hear now is the mental health and the lockdown and COVID and things have all come from it. Like there's a lot of people needing courage now to overcome all those things, and you hope that they'll find it somewhere, you know what I mean? And maybe little things like that, setting goals and goal setting and dream chasing can help drive people out of it. So the row is coming. We're getting ready. So how's the fitness for it and all? Are you feeling happy? You feeling confident?
I wouldn't say I'm feeling confident. I feel fit, but I don't feel confident. I'm really worried. You know, being Irish, I'm really worried about the sun. I mean, the way it works is it'll take roughly 50 days, roughly 7 weeks-ish, right? Depending on the currents and the wind and all that. And each day, 24 hours a day, you do 2 hours rowing, 2 hours resting, 2 hours rowing, 2 hours resting, 24 hours a day for 7 weeks. And there's no shade or anything. And like 15 minutes in the sun, I get so burnt. So I'm a bit worried about that. Like I know it's a kind of a quirk that people laugh at pasty Irishman. But I'm going to get absolutely battered by the sun.
Have you got like heavy?
Like, it's supposed to be roasting out there as well. So.
It's going to be beetroot ready. You'll be like a lobster, aren't you? Like by the time
most people do it naked. Yeah, I just have to cover up, mate. Everyone else does it naked or semi-naked. And I'm going to have to wear long sleeve shirts, like buff around my neck, 2 hats, front and back.
Wow.
What can you do?
Well, mate, do you know what? You got to just do what you got to do, don't you? Like the rest of the guys are all right. They can be naked. You can just, you know, uphold it. So you're going to have like literally skins on, football skins right down to the, you know, tight sort of like training top. Wow. You're going to be roasting.
I'll be the only person ever to finish a row whiter than I started. No people are coming in all bronzed and everything.
People are going to think you were just away in Lanzarote for 2 weeks, weren't you? Like just partying all night and sleeping all day. Awesome. So what's the... so, I mean, awesome. The row absolutely sounds epic. Like, I mean, it's going to be frightening that there. Hats off to you. Great awareness as well for mental health. I hope that you get all the sort of fundraising.
Yeah, the charity that was important called the charity it's called Human, which is HUMEN. It's the men's mental health charity. They offer spaces where men can talk about their problems and understand they're not alone. It's a really cool thing, and we're hoping to raise a couple of $100,000.
Awesome.
It's a different thing to do, but that's the plan.
Awesome. Great charity. Great shout out. I hope, you know, anyone listening, please make sure you get involved, get donating. Every little bit helps, I suppose. So yeah, awesome guys. You know what I mean? Fantastic, Johnny. So I suppose we really need to go back to the start then from now. So where did it all start? Where you find yourself sitting now in Lanzarote about to row across the Atlantic Ocean? I think probably everyone's asking. So where did it all start?
Yeah, well, it started just like everyone's story. And the thing that's cool, I think, about my story in terms of what it's become with climbing these high mountains and the rowing and stuff like across the ocean is that, like, normally if you're anyone from Europe and actually even from the US or Australia, it's always just posh, rich people who get to do all this stuff. Yeah. And I've always thought it was cool. And every time you see someone climbing Everest or rowing across an ocean or running an ultramarathon across the Sahara or whatever, you always think like, fuck, that's so cool. I would love to do that. And then you hear them getting interviewed and they're always just rich, posh people.
On a gap year.
So I hope, I certainly, yeah, and I hope and I think that it's nice that I came from like a single parent background. My mum was on the dole from when I was 3 till I was 13 on welfare. And like, yes, she supported me emotionally a lot. But it's nice to show that all these cool adventures don't have to just be Colonel X military this and SAS X that, and this guy's dad's a politician and this guy's dad helped found this company. So that's cool too. And then like the way I was brought up then, like sure I had no dad, but like my mom was always a big believer in telling me that kind of like American cheesy, you can do anything you want to do. And she didn't think of that in terms of me being a blogger and making money online and doing all this cool stuff. Like she kind of meant that more in a traditional sense, that like I could go to London and work in finance and or whatever, or be a powerful person within whatever industry. So I always believed I could do that, despite coming from like a small town in Northern Ireland or whatever. And then I finished, so I went to uni anyway, 18 to 22. And then after uni, I wanted to go and take a year or two to travel before I went and started to build my career. In London was my original plan, to work in finance. And like my mum still didn't have any money, so she couldn't afford to like send me on a gap year, which is what I wanted to do. And you see these kids like their parents give them 10 grand or whatever, and they go travel around Thailand and Vietnam and all, and Australia and all that, which is cool. But like my mom couldn't afford to do that. So I taught English in Thailand instead. So I moved to Thailand when I was 22, taught English there. And then did that for a year or so, traveled around Asia with the money that I saved, ran out of money, ended up in South Korea teaching English again, saved up some more, traveled the rest of Asia, ran out, back to Korea again, save up some more, travel the rest of Asia. And then I'd been to every country in kind of like East and Southeast Asia, maybe 20 odd countries. And by that stage, I was kind of 27, maybe. I'm 37 now. So that was about 10 years ago. So from there, I moved to Australia, like half of Ireland, on a working holiday visa. And I got my only real job experience. And so I worked in an office for a year, felt like cutting my wrists. It was so depressing. And it was during that year that I started my blog, and I quit my job and flew one way to Zimbabwe, and then spent like the best part of a year taking public transport from the southern tip of Africa up the east coast, up in through Africa and onto the Middle East into Syria. And by that point, I'd kind of been to 49 countries by that point. That was 2010, 2011. And my blog had been going for about a year. I was making about 500 quid a month. So I'd finished that you get really burnt out when you do that hardcore travel, like $10 a day, 20-hour buses and all that. So I'd done about a year of that. And so I flew one way back to Thailand to work on my blog, because 500 quid is just about enough to live in Thailand. And then in 2011, I just focused on building my blog up, trying to generate more revenue from it, trying to build traffic up. And I did that in 2011. And then I figured, I've been to 49 countries. There's roughly 200 countries in the world. So I've done a quarter of the world by accident without intentionally planning to visit so many. And I was about 28 then, maybe 29. I said, okay, I want to do 100 countries before I'm 30. And I want to do every country in the world before I'm 35. And I want to be the first person in Ireland to ever visit every country. And at the time, I thought I was going to be the youngest person to visit every country. But but I got beaten to that. So that disappeared. And I was in Bangkok, and then I had this plan to go from Bangkok back to Belfast, the capital of Northern Ireland, without flying. So I did that. I spent all of 2012 doing that.
Where did you come up with that idea?
Across the Trans-Siberian and all.
Where did that come up with? Where did you just like?
It's cool, isn't it?
Just suddenly think, you know what? I'm gonna like not get a plane. I'm gonna like, just gonna go across the continent, see how it takes me.
Well, the original plan was I wanted to buy a tuk-tuk in Thailand and drive it back to Kilkeel, my town in Northern Ireland.
I love it.
Yeah. So that never happened anyway. So I still went from Bangkok to Belfast but by buses and trains, not by tuk-tuk.
Awesome.
And that was during 2012. So I'd be traveling all day. And then in the evenings, I'd be in internet cafes or whatever, or Starbucks, whatever, working hard on my blog. And by that stage, I had a couple of guys working for me, writing content, and I owned a few other websites. And during that year, my business blew up like 10 times, and I was making loads of money by the end of the year. And that's kind of where my life changed. I was doing like 30, 40, 50K a month by the end of 2012. And it just was blowing my mind. And that 2012, that Bangkok to Belfast trip just changed my life. So that's when I really was like, whoa, I've got enough money. I can actually visit every country. Even if the blog stuff ended tomorrow, I've got 100K in the bank or whatever. I could finish every country probably with this much money. And then that changed my whole mindset of thinking like, you can kind of just do anything. No one has to, you don't have to ask anyone's permission. You don't have to be some famous dude. You don't have to be some rich kid.
So that Bangkok trip absolutely changed your life really then?
Yeah, because it goes from, when you make money online from blogs or whatever, YouTube, whatever it is you're doing, making your first $50 is the first step to changing your life, because you're like, whoa, I've just put something into the air and money's come back to me. It's only $50, but stay humble and understand that money's come from something, right? Yeah. So that's the first. And then the next step is to make $1,000 a month. And once you make $1,000 a month, you're like, whoa, if I don't live a flashy life, I could exist on this pretty comfortably. Because remember, you're doing it online, so you don't have to live in London. You know, you can live in Bali or wherever, Shanghai, whatever. And then you get to kind of $1,000 a month, and you can keep that as your baseline cost. And then you try to blow that up from 1 to 5K. And then once you're on 5K, you're tax efficient. You got it registered in Hong Kong or Bahamas or whatever. Then you're actually living a really good life if you're living in Thailand or Bali or wherever. And then you can start to think, and then 5K can become 10, 15, 20. And if you're not flash, you can be saving 70%, 80% of your income. You can build your future, because this online stuff can end at any point, right? So, you just have to take it in baby steps, and you just have to stay humble. Like my blog, selling ads across One Step Forward and a few other sites that I own. And sometimes the ads are like on my other like secondary sites are 30 quid, 40 quid. But I never turn my nose up at the deal, you know what I mean? And I've been doing it a decade now, and it all adds up, and you invest that money wisely, and you steer clear of the Porsches and the Rolexes, and it all adds up, and before long you're financially free. And then that's allowed me to do all the cool stuff that I want to do, like the ultramarathons, the North Pole, like Everest, rowing the Atlantic. By all those 30 quids here and there, staying humble, now you get into a position where you can almost do what you want. Like, I'm not talking about private jets and all that. Of course, I don't have money like that. I don't have money like that. But in terms of like life experiences and being able to just be like, okay, how long does it take to row across the Atlantic? A month or two's training plus 2 months on the ocean. I can just do that, and I don't need to ask permission. And it's just, you just got to stay humble and chip away at it.
It's awesome. It is really awesome to be able to have that freedom, like you said.
Really awesome.
To be able to go, let's do it. I'm gonna train. I'm gonna row across the Atlantic Ocean with a load of cool people as well. Meet a load of cool people and film crews and raise money and give back. I suppose, which you've got another co-founded charity called the Give Back Give Away, don't you, as well? Which is similar lines to that.
It's rebranded now to Medita. We learned about this former Sanskrit word that's represented in Hinduism and Buddhism. Medita means that you get happiness by giving other people happiness, which is cool, because it's a non-profit company. It's essentially an adventure travel company that gives back. That's what it used to be called, Give Back Give Away. Now it's called Medita Adventures. So where normal companies would take profit from, you sell a trip, right? And it costs $2,000 each. Let's say it costs $2,000 and there's 20 people, that's 40 grand revenue. It costs 25 grand to run the trip, whatever, you get 15 grand profit. That, roughly speaking, is how tour companies, G Adventures and all those guys work. So where normal people will take that 15 grand and pay salaries and whatever's left over is profit, ours is a non-profit. So we use that money to fund like classrooms and malaria clinics and kindergartens and playgrounds and stuff for developing communities around the world. And we've donated nearly $250,000 now over the last 3 or 4 years by doing it. It's just really cool. And it's hands-on donation. We don't hand the money over. We find grassroots NGOs in Tanzania, Sri Lanka, Ethiopia, wherever it is. We've done loads of different countries, and we go there, and the travelers then come with us. They pay their money, they come with us, and we have local stakeholders and local construction teams, so the money stays within the community. They build it and they time it right so that our team comes and gets to visit the opening ceremony. You can see where their money's gone directly, and that takes 2 or 3 days to finish it off. And then we go for an adventure in the country wherever we are. So like if it's in Tanzania, we built it, we've revamped the whole school there over 4 or 5 projects. Like the whole thing's almost brand new now. It's so beautiful. I'm going back there again in November actually. And then so we finish that, all the money goes to the school, and then we go off on safari, get drunk in a tent, and then party in Zanzibar to celebrate it all. It's cool. It's a cool way to do it.
Awesome way to travel. Awesome way. So anyone, like you say,
cool.
gonna have going for that gap year, something completely different, isn't it? Instead of doing the let's go to Thailand, tour about, bum about a bit, go to Australia and work for 6 months. Why not get on Medita? What is it? Medita? How are we saying it?
MUDITA Adventures.
Medita Adventures.
Medita.
Let's get on that. Awesome. So anyone looking to travel, best way to go, get in touch with the guys. So, I mean, giving back, I think I'm a real believer in that there. Like, I think it's really powerful stuff that, I totally believe you put back, you give back, good things come back to you. And, I think if everyone did a bit more of it, what a wonderful place would be, so
absolutely.
It's a real good thing, helping people and pushing that out and good vibes. So keep it going.